Welcome to Shutter and Flow, a podcast for commercial photographers looking to grow their business, stay creative, and keep up with industry trends. I'm Edward Antonelli, and with me is my co-host, Jeremy Freeman.
What's up?
Today, we're talking about building your go-to photo crew, who you need in your network, how to find the right people, the best practices for working with them on set. Jeremy, you've worked with a lot of crews over the years. What do you think are the core crew members that every commercial photographer should have in their back pocket?
Well, I think always starting a great photo assistant is someone you're going to use the most. But at this point, my photo assistants are my friends. They're people I talk to regularly. It's someone that there's a lot of shoots that'll come in that you may just need a photo assistant as opposed to a bigger crew. When there's budgetary constraints and things like that, you say, okay, I can have one person come with me. If you can find someone that also knows digital tech, great. But the important thing with a photo assistant is remembering there's two types of photo assistants. There are younger people who are learning, and they are there. Their goal is to be a commercial photographer themselves. They are coming to help you. They're bringing their knowledge, but they're also learning along the way. And then there are people who are just photo assistants for life. And those people are geniuses and know so much more than any commercial photographer could learn because they've worked with so many different photographers over the years. So it's finding what you're comfortable with. I love learning from photo assistants. I mean, I have friends that are photo assistants in LA that have been working for 20 years. And that's all they've done. And they've worked on some of the biggest shoots imaginable. Things that I've heard them tell me about, like some shoots where they've had to rent 100 pro photo packs.
Wow.
And there have been like 8 assistants on it. And it's like massive sets and things like that. So I think that's your like key first person you're going to always want. Next, I would say is a digital tech. It's always a little more expensive to have a digital tech, but they make your life so much easier.
So what's the going rate right now? I know it differs in city to city, right? From New York to LA, and it's maybe a little different than Atlanta. And then in smaller markets, they're probably going to charge much less. But what's kind of the average going rate for a tech these days?
A tech will normally split up into 2 rates. You'll normally have their day fee and then their gear fee or their kit fee. So their day rate could be as low as 500, normally closer to 8, somewhere in that range, depending on that for the day rate.
That's a lot more than what I used to make when I teched back in the day.
Oh, yeah. It has gone up across the board, specifically after COVID. Rates in general have all gone up. And I think part of that was when there were shoots happening during COVID that we had to do a lot more testing. COVID testing, you'd have to go in the day before, go get a COVID test, do all these things, and rates kind of adjusted because of that. And they've just kind of stayed there. And then the kit fee for a digital tech normally falls around $750 would be my guess. And that is them providing computer, extra monitor, ability to stream it. Because now so many shoots I do are on Zoom. So a crew, an agency, whoever it is, can see it remotely without being on site. They will sometimes charge extra to provide the hard drives. If you want them to do that, they can cover that for you, which you'll just pay for. And they organize all your files, give you multiple backups. They make it where when you walk away from that shoot at the end of the day, for people who don't know this, they will have all your files numbered how you want them, metadata added. Sometimes good digital techs will be listening to people on set. And if someone says, oh, I really like that one, they're marking it and making selects for you as they go. And they're also watching every file come in, checking your focus, checking your exposure. If you can get a really good digital tech and assistant team, they are working together. So you're just focusing on shooting. The digital tech sees it, says, oh, that light's a little hot. They will say something to the assistant. The assistant will make the change to the lighting. And you never even know sometimes. And that's where you have to have these people that you really trust and are people that you just have worked with enough and they understand how you work, you understand how they work, or you set that expectation during the pre-light or before the shoot and say, hey, If you see something, go for it. You have to sometimes give people that freedom to feel good that they can do it.
So, besides an assistant or multiple assistants in a digital tech, what are the other roles or people that you tend to hire onto a crew yourself most often?
Well, first, real quick, we forgot to get into assistant rates of what they are because they can vary pretty drastically. Um, if a good first assistant, that's your person that has a lot of knowledge, let's just say around 700 is a good, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, depending on what city you're in. It can be as low as 350 for like a learning. Say you have a set with multiple assistants, you could bring in a younger person who's still learning, probably get away for 350 if you really wanted to. Back in the day, remember when we would get like 200 and be like,
Yeah.
yeah, we did it.
Yeah. Right.
So, and then you have some really high end, they're not even really called assistants anymore. It's a lighting tech.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of them. Normally in big cities, you'll have a few that are like really high end and doing this forever.
New York, LA. Yeah.
Yeah, New York, LA. Atlanta has more now because of all the movie industry here. You'll have a few of them that either work as lighting on TV shows and they do this on the side, or they've just moved over into this. And those can be as much as 1,000, 1,200 a day. But they will come in and you could tell them, hey, I want light to kind of look like this, and they will just do it. They
Yeah.
will just and they will do it in a way that you've never even thought of. And you're like, oh, I know nothing. Um,
I mean, they're
but
basically grips, right? Like it's
yeah,
somebody that can work on a grip movie set and they know everything about light. They know more about lighting than most photographers do.
yeah, I mean, they pull out some sort of grip hardware that you've never even seen before and mount it in some interesting way, and it's truly impressive. Back to your question, other key people, producers. So when you get to a big enough shoot, then depending on what it is, you may need to have your own producer. This is the person that makes everything go easy and smoothly, and they would be the ones hiring the crews, they would be the ones securing the space, models, like they are the ones they're like the the maestro running the orchestra. They're getting all the pieces together. So if you're on a different, say you're doing a different shoot, but you have this other one coming, they're prepping everything for you for the next shoot. You're in constant communication with them. And a great producer can make everyone's life easier. They think about all the little things that you probably will not think about, all the way from catering to timing of the schedule to make sure you have enough time, and when hair and makeup arrives, when talent arrives, like spacing everything out so your day runs smoothly. Because also you have to remember all these rates that we're going to talk about are typically for a 10-hour day. And then you go into overtime. So if you don't schedule your day out right and you don't budget for overtime, then you could end up losing money on this, which will then affect your entire overhead and everything down the road. Sometimes a producer will come from the company that you're shooting for or the agency. They have their own at times. But sometimes you have to bring your own in for the shoot. And that will run you around $1,000 a day. And that is multiple days. Like it is typically, I would say for a big shoot, you're looking at 4 or 5 days with a producer, because they're doing stuff on the front end and a little bit on the back end around the shoot day to get you prepped and ready to go.
And for an agency shoot, they're likely going to have their own producers. And if you need somebody additional, you're likely going to hire a PA, right? Instead of hiring a full-fledged producer, but somebody to help manage a few things.
Yeah. So a PA would be the next one that I would bring up. And a PA is a younger, coming into the industry, doesn't know a lot, very green, wanting to learn, and they're there to kind of do whatever is needed. it- I think everyone should, just like I think everyone should wait tables at some point in their life, I think everyone should PA at some point in their life. It is, yes, you may be getting coffee. Yes, you may be getting the tables ready for lunch. Like all the little things that just go on a set that make your life run and not have to think about it. You're not waiting for anything. That's what a PA's job. But then also I've had PAs come with me on shoots that all I have them do is get model releases signed. So I'm shooting at some event. They need model releases so they can use these photos out in the world. I'm working with that person. They have a clipboard. They have a little camera. I think I paid them $300 that day to spend the whole day with me. And every time I took a picture of someone, I would be like, yeah, go get that one. And they would run over, get the model release signed, take a picture of the person with it. So then we had it for later purposes. So a PA can be a few different things. And sometimes a PA will come in and they're on the verge of assistant and PA together because they've done it enough. They want to fully move into assisting. And it's like, great, I want you to do that. As long as like, it's good to help everyone grow on that.
Besides assistants, techs, and producers, what else? What other kind of people are you typically responsible for hiring versus an agency or a brand would provide? Are you doing hair and makeup, stylists? Are you hiring all those people as well?
It varies. So sometimes a agency or a brand says, we want you to handle all of it. And then you're baking in stylist, makeup, even models sometimes, which if you want to see a budget go up, add a bunch of models with a bunch of usage and it skyrockets a
Yeah,
budget really quick.
models can be really expensive.
Yes. So a stylist and a makeup artist are key. Stylist is another one that you have to think about, that it is not just the day of the shoot. It is shopping days ahead of time and return days, because they will go with direction and get a bunch of wardrobe for whoever you have, sizing, different looks, have it ready. Most of it doesn't get used and they have to return it. So you're typically looking at 1 to 2 days of shopping before the day of the shoot, which they're there, steaming, prepping, they're on set, making all the little adjustments to the clothes, pinning them in the back. I mean, the number of times we've seen a model with just nothing but pins or A-clamps up their back to make a shirt fit perfectly. And they normally have an assistant with them. So one's steaming and one is on set. So you're working as a pair. And then 1 day of returning all the clothes that don't get used, or even some of the ones that do. So yeah, and that one, it varies. That one can vary a lot price wise, as far as like who they are. That one can, just like a photographer rate, can go up and down a lot. The last one, I think it was $850 a day to have that. It was a little less on return days, but that's just a good range for
Yeah.
that.
And that's going to vary depending on what kind of shoot it is too, right? Because let's say you're doing a brand shoot for a clothing company, right? They don't need to go out and find clothing. They're basically just styling what's already been provided by the client. So that is going to change depending on what it is. And have you used prop stylists or set dressers at all? Or is that something typically that's going to be handled on the client side?
Typically it is on the client side. From my experience, I know people that have. That's normally if you're like building out a big set. Like I have had people come in and like build walls and things like that, but nothing too major. But it falls in the similar rate as a stylist, because sometimes they have to go out and acquire whatever props you're
Mhm.
looking for. Like those two kind of run together. You'll find a lot of agencies that run prop stylist, makeup artist, and wardrobe stylist all from one place. Kind of like you can go get models from a modeling agency. You can find some agencies that do that similar vein.
Yeah. And I know there are some types of photography that are going to use prop stylists or set dressers way more, right? Architecture, hospitality, that's like a great example because you're going in somewhere, say it's like a hotel lobby, and they're going to potentially be able to move some things around or maybe add some fresh flowers or whatever's needed. And that's not something typically, once you get to like a high enough level, that you're just going to have an assistant do, right? That's something you're going to need to bring like somebody with experience to help you make it look good.
And also, you want someone that has a good style and a good look. I mean, I worked with a lot of assistants that I don't trust their style. Let's
Mhm.
just put it a lot
Me
of
too.
dudes in cargo shorts.
Yeah.
So then makeup artist would be your next one. That range is about 850 when that includes their makeup kit normally. That's for like a normal level, nothing crazy, no specialty. That's another one that can get very expensive. I've been on sets before that I have no idea how much this costs, but it's like special effects, makeup, and really intense. Oh God, we painted one guy up like a full zombie one time. Like some really intense makeup stuff that I've seen on set. That can get very expensive, but I mean, it's all just budgeting it properly and being effective of your time. And every one of these things, it's all to save time. It's all to make it where the photographer can focus on the shooting, focus on the little things that they're seeing, and not have to put the camera down and go adjust something. You say, you have your team to help you. And that's what's important. I always remember it's a team. It doesn't matter that I'm taking the picture. If all these people aren't there helping me, then it's not going to look as good. And you're like really trying to work together and setting that expectation up ahead of time of like, guys, if you see something, don't be afraid. I tell my wardrobe stylist all the time, or my hairstylist that I'm sitting, if they're there with me, I'm like, look, if you see it, just say, hey, stepping in, and walk out there and adjust what needs to be adjusted. Or if I see it, I have them, I'm like, hey, can we grab this hair really quick? Because it's better to get it done in camera and make it look as best as you can, even though it's taking away from your work. Sorry, Edward. Um,
It
then
doesn't, but yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
well, it just saves everyone so much time on the back end. If you can get all this stuff done ahead of time and thought out properly, and yes, you're spending more money for these digital techs and all these different things, but then it's saving you so much time and effort on the back end that you can put that effort into finding new clients, getting new work, finding bigger shoots, because you're not sitting there working all this little stuff to get it all cleared up on the back.
As somebody who does post production, I really appreciate when things come to me looking as they should, or as good as they could get on set, right? Like, because then you're taking something from good to great instead of taking something that could have been great and all you can kind of do is get it to good. And that happens a lot. I've been asked to do some crazy things in post. And a lot of times, if there was, I know sometimes there's not enough time to get everything done on set, and which is also where post comes in handy. But if you can just take something out of camera and it looks fantastic and you can touch it up and it looks even better or comp it or whatever the expectation is, you can make something that looks amazing. But if you're starting from a really low bar, you can kind of only do so much. There at least in my eyes, when I see something that, oh wow, like a lot of post was done to this, but it only got it to maybe where it should have been from the beginning. Clients are happy. They're like, wow, this looks great because they know where it started. But I think they can't see past that and see where it could have been if it was done correctly. And yeah, sometimes it's a lack of time, sometimes it's a lack of crew, sometimes it's a lack of money in the shoot.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to always come into that where you're meeting your expectations, the budget, the client. There's like all these different things that work together. And sometimes it's figuring out how to get them at roughly the same area. And sometimes you just don't make it, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And then you can figure it out. But yes,
Yeah.
always. But if you have the right crew helping you, you're more likely to bring the level up across the board.
Yeah. So, are there any roles that photographers tend to overlook the most that you feel makes the largest impact on set?
I think that there's a lot of times that if you're doing portraits, headshots, things like that, that makeup is overlooked and people are like, oh, we can just save time and money and just they can do it and then we'll clean it up. And you've seen a lot of those where it's like, oh yeah, this person looks fine. They did their makeup at home. Doing your makeup for yourself and then someone who is a professional doing it for photo or video specifically. Video tends to go a little too heavy, but we won't get into that. Um, it makes a big difference on the back end. And if you're having to clean up these photos and you want everyone to be happy, like your lighting's key, but it's like if you're coming in sweaty and gross, then there's only so much that you can do with it. So I do think a makeup artist is worth every bit of the money. And I feel the same way about a digital tech. Like assistant, I think you're always going to be, if you like, that's a standard one that you should have. Digital tech would be your next step, where it's like you're not having to look at the camera or the computer, you're just shooting.
Yeah. There's no worry about, are the files saving? Is everything going to be okay? Right. Like the digital tech's got that handled. If anything happens where you're tethered, if you're shooting tethered, like your tethered connection, it's like, you got to stop down for a minute. They'll let you know, right? If you're trying to do all that yourself, it's going to be a lot of work. And you're definitely going to have a shoot where you didn't realize that all of a sudden, I don't know, your tether came unplugged or like something little that's like dumb, right?
Yeah.
That's then you're gonna miss out on something and it's gonna, you know, not be
Which,
great.
let me just say right now, if you're shooting tethered and no one's watching it, please make sure you have a memory card in and you have your camera set up to record to the card if the tether comes unhooked. Because I mean, that even happened to me recently and it was fine because I had my card in and it worked out. But yes, that can happen a lot. But a good digital tech is also, they have an extra drive plugged in. They're running chrono sync. It's backing up every few minutes while you're shooting. You know that it's going to be there. You know it's going to be saved. They're checking focus, like all these little things that just make your life so much better and the images turn out so much better.
When you're hiring a new tech or somebody you haven't worked for or worked with necessarily, what are you looking for? Like, are you interviewing that person or are you getting that person as a referral? And is there anything specifically you're looking for to make sure that they're going to do when you bring them on set, especially if it's a bigger shoot?
Yeah, I will say I have a lot of, I think New York, LA, Atlanta, trying to think of what other cities, New Orleans. I have people in all those cities, and it's trusted people that I've worked with for a long time. So they're my go to. I kind of went into it pretty loosely at the beginning. I just had people that would maybe give me a recommendation, and I just trust that recommendation and I go with it. I know these people that have worked for a long time. If my close assistant that I'm good friends with says, "Oh, this person's good," I trust that person. They're going to be good.
Yeah, assistants
Um,
have likely worked with a bunch of techs before, so they'll kind of be a really good resource for that. If somebody doesn't have a tech and needs one, asking around the assistants, they're gonna tell you who's good or who's good to work with on set.
yeah, and that's what I think I care about more sometimes than, there could be a better person that's better at lighting, but they're a pain in my ass and I don't want to deal with them. So I would much rather have people that are having a good time on set in a way where it's like we enjoy each other's company. Like we're not goofing off when we're shooting, but it's like we enjoy being around each other. Because there's also a lot of time on set where you're sitting around waiting, especially on entertainment stuff where they're filming a show or they're doing commercials and you're waiting for photo. You're always going to be last priority. I mean, I think my record is I sat for 8 hours one day in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which was not lovely. But that one I brought, there were no assistants or techs in Albuquerque. So I had my LA people rent gear, drive it into Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Having people with you that you enjoy, that you trust, and getting the recommendations from those people when you need someone else in a different city or whatever it may be. Your next option are, if you're going to a new city, you don't know anyone, but you're going to be renting gear. If they have a rental house, they have a list of assistants. I would almost guarantee it that they have worked with, they've come in and gotten gear, all these different things. So that's another good resource. And yeah, you can go in at that point if it's a total unknown. If you want to have an interview with them, I can tell you from experience, most assistants, if you try to bring them in and be like, "I'm going to interview you as a photographer," they are going to basically give you the middle finger.
Yeah.
Are they going to be like, they're like, "I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm not going to come like explain to you how I know what I'm doing." If you
Would
have
it
good assistants.
would it make sense to interview somebody if they're kind of like newer, younger, trying to become an assistant? Would you still do an interview or would you just bring them on set and understand that you have to start teaching them?
I think on what I would tend to do on a younger, newer assistant is if I have if I have need two assistants on a shoot, I bring them as my second.
Yeah.
So that way you're seeing how they're working. how they're interacting with the other assistant. Are they okay learning from this other person, which they should be because those people know so much? How they are taking orders, honestly, is what it comes down to. Is like, are they sitting there chatting too much? We've both been on set where I have straight up told an assistant, I'm like, oh, go over there and check that. It's just because they were sitting there talking right by set. And there's gonna come times in that where you might have to step in and say something, and you just find a discreet way to say it so it's not in front of the client or the talent, and you're just like, hey, I need you to shut up. Or hey, I need you to like stop doing this, or whatever it is. If it's interfering with the overall mood, well, I'm just going to say this for my wife, if the energy feels wrong
Yeah,
on set,
I feel it.
if the auras aren't aligning,
Yeah.
um there's times where you just have to like keep that together. Because if you think about, it's a weird way to think about it, but a whole set and all the crew is kind of like this one thing, and you're all together and you're all like music playing, and that's a great advantage about photo sets versus videos. You can just have music playing the whole time. You just want everyone to be like working together as a team and not feel like you're competing with each other. And that is important. That's why I think a lot of times the personality of the people is just as important as the other stuff.
What are some red flags that someone might not be fit for a shoot? What are the things that you immediately see and you're like, I'm not going to hire this person again, or this person doesn't have the right temperament? Like, what's the biggest red flag to you?
Once you start working on shoots with bigger celebrity talent, things like that, you have to just, they're just people, and you have to look at it that way. And sometimes you bring a younger assistant in and they're so excited to meet a celebrity, and you can't look at it that way. You're just there to do a job. You're there to get it done. And I have seen people that are like all excited, or I haven't seen this, but I know of people that are like ask for autographs. You're not doing any of that. You're there to work. You're gonna do something cool. You're just acting like a normal person. So that's a big red flag I've seen for sure. There are people that will constantly complain about what the craft services it is going to be that day, or people that have been doing it longer tend to get a little more specific about those type of things of like
Hmm.
what the craft service is, who's the, what's the food, like all these little things can, I know it seems minor, but when I have assistants and digital techs in LA that probably work 3 days a week on different sets, so they see
Hmm.
a lot of variety.
Yeah.
And there's some days where you're like, oh, we have the same caterer that I've worked with forever, and they see the same people and they know what they don't like and they know what they do like. So there's little things like that where you can, they can become curmudgeons in a way,
Hmm.
and you have to keep an eye out for that. Because there's also, for a few of these different jobs, sometimes their goal is to be the commercial photographer. Great. I want them to do that as well. But there has to come a point where you rip the band-aid and say, I'm not taking these assistant jobs anymore. I'm not taking these digital tech jobs anymore. I'm shooting now.
Yeah.
But the people need money, so they continue doing it, but they will get a little bitter about it.
I think it's a transition, right? I think most of the people that we know, if not everyone we know that is a commercial photographer or really any level of different jobs in the industry, we all started assisting, right?
Legit.
I mean, I assisted even though I didn't end up shooting and ended up going the post route, but I think that was just kind of the natural progression. And I think most of the people that we know, including yourself, like assisted for a long time
Yeah.
and then slowly built up your skills. It slowly built up the like business acumen and ability to go out and like find your own jobs. And then, yeah, some people have to still assist for a year or two while they're doing that. And other people rip the band-aid off 100% and they're like, no, I'm a photographer now. I'm not assisting anymore. And they also have to understand that has its own problems, right? Because then you go from having an actual profession with an income and it's not a salary, but you know how much money roughly you're going to make in a year, and all of a sudden you have no idea how much money you're going to make in a year. You have no idea if you're going to be able to make rent or whatever it is that you need to pay. And so I think the slower transition and being patient with it is a good thing, right? And then at some point, you hit a point where you're like, I'm done assisting. And I think the point is probably before you start getting bitter and upsetting the
Yeah.
people on set. Because, yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I've seen this in working in a lot of in post rooms and like a lot of companies. Um, Nobody wants to work with somebody who's bitter, right? You kind of check it at the door if you can, and you don't bring it to work, hopefully. And you definitely don't bring it on set, where when you're on set, it kind of has to have like a good energy, right? And it only takes one person who's having a really bad day to kind of ruin a shoot, not necessarily in terms of the final product and what you're getting in the photos, but it kind of ruins everyone else's day, right? And obviously, everyone's going to have a bad day. I'm sure you've had a bad day on set. Everyone's going to have a bad day. But if somebody is consistently showing up and has like a terrible attitude and just is kind of not fun to work with for everybody, that's going to really hurt them. And I would say, yeah, like in terms of any kind of crew, if you have somebody that consistently is bringing down the mood and the vibe, to use your wife's terminology, right? Bringing down
Vibe.
the
I want to
vibes.
cancel vibe. Can we get rid of vibe? I'm
Yeah,
done with
well,
that
let's
word.
do something else. But when they are bringing down everyone's energy and it's kind of a dark cloud hanging over the set, I think that's the person that you have to replace, right? And
Yeah.
maybe have a conversation with them first and give them an opportunity to try to correct it. But I think at a certain point, you just can't afford to have somebody on set with clients that may be bringing everything down. Even if it's like 10, 20%, that's still 10, 20%. They're not moving it up, you know?
Yeah. And I think you can also go in a similar world where there could be an ego that is trying to overshadow a little bit. And I mean, I got called out on this a long time ago from my old boss. And I was on set, and I don't know why, but there was something that I was doing. I don't even remember. This is over 15 years ago, but I got pulled aside after, and it's like, hey, you need to calm it down a little bit. And I think I was a little too cocky about something, and I was there as the
That
assistant.
tracks.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't need to be cocky about it. Um, but I do think what you said is very important. It's like, yeah, I have days where I have bad days, but I try to make sure. God, I was just on one in LA, and it's just like, I don't know why I was in a bad mood that morning. I get to set, I'm like, it was super early, and I just sat in the car. I actually sat there and meditated for a minute. And I was like, look, I have to pull it together, and I have to be the ringleader in this. And I can't start my day of meeting my assistant and my digital tech in a bad mood. Because if I go into it in a bad mood, they're going to match it. And they're going to be like, oh, yeah, it's going to be annoying. So I just sat in the car, had my coffee, was there early, and just like, all right, the moment I get out of this car, I have to bring it and just be on.
Yeah.
And also, that was the thing where I like made sure to grab, because it was an early morning and I want my crew to be happy. On the way there, I had coffee, I had breakfast sandwiches for those two people, because I want them to know that I appreciate that they're coming in early. Because it's like, yeah, it's a job, but it's like, we're going to be around each other for the rest of the day. I want to make sure that we're all in a good mood and doing that. So you are setting that expectation for everyone on your crew. They will come along with you if you're doing it that way, as opposed to if you're grumpy, they're going to be like, oh, he doesn't care about this. Why should I care about this?
Yeah.
Mm.
So would you say that doing small things on set to show appreciation for your crew is one of the things that makes them want to work with you, right? Over other photographers?
100%. Like, I am about, I am big about my certain people that I work with, a handful of people. I maybe will pay them a little extra. I am the one that if I'm going to grab a coffee or something from craft services, I will make sure to get them stuff. I'm not the person that's like sends the PA to get everything. And look, everyone does it their own way, but I think that we're in this together as a team. So I'm like, oh, what do you need? I'll go grab it for you. If the digital text processing files, I make sure that they get food first. I always make sure that my crew, if we're going to take our lunch break, I find a way to stagger them where one of them can go early, so we're always ready when everyone else is ready. You never want the talent or anyone waiting on the photo crew. Like, you want to be always ready. So there's little things like that where you make sure that they go first, and it helps everyone. One thing I forgot to say before that we were talking about is one great thing about being an assistant or a digital tech. You do this shoot for the day, for 2 days, whatever it may be. You're done with it. You don't have to think about it ever again. Like, you can use some of the lighting stuff or whatever, think about that to use for later things, but you don't have any of the stress of the back end, the client, all the things that come along with being the person who is running the shoot. You're just on to the next shoot and not thinking about it.
You clock in, you clock out.
Yeah, it's like you do your job the best you can, you provide everything you need, and you're out. You're done. If you remember that take it from their perspective. Yeah, they're there for that day, but if you can make their day great, the next time you call them, they're going to say yes right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want the people to want to work with you as well, because they don't have to. Like, it's not, sometimes they have enough work other places that they don't have to say yes to you.
Depending on the market, right? If you're in a smaller market, they might be needing to travel for work, or there might be an abundance of assistants. It just kind of depends.
Yeah. I mean, Atlanta definitely had a period where there's too many people here for every job, especially with movie production slowing down. There is no shortage of people you could work with that you could hire for all these different roles here in Atlanta right now. And LA was the same. You want those people to want to come spend time with you. And that's why I look at it more as friends and a team as opposed to my assistant and my digital tech.
Yeah, that's a good place to leave it here today. If you found this conversation helpful, be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening now. We've got more episodes coming your way, and we're excited to keep diving into the business of photography with you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.